I'm deeply, deeply honored to be here and to be sharing with your community once again virtually. I love technology and I love that we can stay connected in this way. My talk title today is The 3 Steps of Awakening: Awareness, Awareness, and Awareness. And what came to me in meditation is the first step of awareness is an awareness of who and what we really are, who and what we truly are. And the second step of awareness is knowing who and what we are not. And the third step of awareness is how do we return or make a deep connection or acknowledge that truth of who and what we are. So we come into the world as a whole and perfect spiritual being, and then we get taught by the world that we're something other than that. I think it's Carl Jung that says we spend the first 40 years of our life developing an ego and the second 40 years dismantling it. And so we come into the world egoless, open, completely one with source. And then the tall people in the world tell us all sorts of things. And I remember being a very young child and hearing some of the things that people were saying. And I just thought, that doesn't sound right. When I saw on TV war and violence, when I heard people saying things that were racist and sexist, the list could go on. But I remember also being taught that there's not enough. There's not enough resources. There's limitation and there is lack. So over the course of the early years in my life, I began to drift away from the innate knowing that who and what each of us is a divine spark of light, as the reading said. And in an instant, we can have a realization of that, a recognition of that truth. But in my journey, and in many people I have worked with and talked with and been in community with, we seem to share this common experience of that great forgetting in our early years. And then we come into spiritual practice and we think, how can I be more present, more open, more loving, feel my feelings? And if you look at a very small child, a pre-programmed human under about 3, that's innate. They're filled with joy. They feel their feelings deeply and let us know exactly what they're feeling. They allow those feelings to move through them and then they return to this natural state of joy. That's the innate experience. It has been said that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And at one point I realized, what if we could shift that to we are spiritual beings having a spiritual experience? What if everything that we've experienced on planet Earth that has seemed to take us away from the innate knowing of who and what we are has been a perfect part of the journey? I don't know who said it, but someone said, the master knows that looking forward, there are endless possibilities. Looking back, there was only one. In other words, rather than focusing on what has happened in the past, what if we were to say, everything that's happened in my journey has brought me to this moment, and in this moment, I can tap into a life filled with infinite possibilities. So that first step of awareness is a remembering of who and what we are, that we are this divine spark. We're literally particles of the universe. And yet many of us have been taught that that's not who and what we are. So we start to believe the lie and forget the innate knowing of our truth. So that really the process is twofold for me. It's cultivating a relationship with the essential self, and 2, pretty much unlearning everything we've ever been taught that is counter to the knowing that we are infinite beings capable of infinite possibilities. And so in some ways it becomes profoundly simple, and yet in others, we might spend a lifetime struggling with or working with these stories that keep us limited, the things we've picked up, the things in our life maybe that we are seeking forgiveness or we just can't let go of, can't live beyond, the narrative that we have about ourselves, the frequency that we're holding. Dr. Sue Morter says life is challenging and it's difficult until it's not. So we can have that spark of divine insight, that instant knowing, that recognition of who and what we are. And it's a great remembering. It's not moving forward towards something. It's, oh yeah, I remember the truth. Perhaps it's in meditation, like the beautiful meditation we experienced today. Juliet, thank you for that. That was incredible. Because in those moments, we can tap into reality. And even if our minds can't make sense of what we're experiencing, there is an innate knowing that we have touched the truth, the greater reality, that we did come into the world whole and perfect, and that we were programmed to believe something other than that. And that as we make contact with, and that's not really accurate, that's just the mind thinking we've ever been out of contact. The truth is we've always been source energy. So it's not really about reconnecting with that. It's about recognizing that's already there. We can call off the search and rest in the truth of who and what we are. And from that place, then we can observe the mind, observe our thinking, observe reality in the relative world. You know, we hear the only thing constant is change. And of course, in unity teachings, we differentiate between relative reality and ultimate reality. And that's really what we're talking about here. Step one, awareness of ultimate reality. God, source, light, love, all the different words that we use. That is the truth of who and what we are. And that is the greater reality. And then the awareness of relative reality being ever changing. And if you're anything like me, you might have spent some time in your life trying to control relative reality. And boy, can that be fun. And boy, can that be painful. I spent so many years thinking the world needed to change so that I could be happy. And I realized at some point that the opposite is true. That I can realize that regardless of outer circumstances, when I make contact, and again, that's just the mind, when I remember who and what I am, relative reality becomes less significant. And so it doesn't mean that what's happening in the world doesn't matter, but what it does mean is that as I know who and what I am, and as we spend time cultivating that relationship through meditation, through spiritual community, through music, being in awe of the world, we can witness relative reality in a very different way. And then we can come to the profound knowing that so many people have said, and that is, I don't have to believe everything I think. And then the greatest freedom can be experienced, and that freedom is the freedom from the reactive impulse. You see, anytime I have a reaction, it is a thought, and the thought usually goes something like this: that shouldn't be happening. This shouldn't be happening to me. They shouldn't be doing that. I shouldn't be doing that. And when we become aware of ultimate reality, when we tap into that deeper truth, we can become curious. And curiosity is really what opens us up to live beyond the stories and the ideas and the BS belief systems that have kept us stuck or limited, or that we have perceived have kept us stuck or limited. Because the truth is, we're infinite beings. But the program that many of us have been taught, and many of us have signed on to, whether consciously or unconsciously, is that there's lack and limitation, and there's division and there's separation. One thing that we hear a lot right now in popular culture, if you will, is that we're a divided country, that we're a polarized country or a polarized world. And I actually think that it's not so much that we are a polarized country, but that we have been conditioned to have polarized thinking: good, bad, right, wrong. And when we tap into ultimate reality, we can become curious about that. And so someone might say, well, wait a minute. There are conditions in the world that are horrific. And so what I want to say, I want to lean into that. True change comes through curiosity and openness rather than judgment and fighting. And so how many people have been fighting for their rights, fighting for equality? And there is, of course, a place for that. But then we reach this place where we realize that we can be a much more profound change agent when we know who and what we are. And as Dr. Michael Beckwith says, we are not here to change the world. We are here to serve the new paradigm. Serving the new paradigm is a knowing our oneness, knowing the truth of who and what we are, and then being that in the world. And so rather than fighting, we are standing for something rather than against something. And the mind the mind can be such an interesting thing, because even as I'm saying this, I'm noticing my mind saying, yeah, but what about that? Yeah, but what about that? We're so conditioned, good, bad, right, wrong, that sometimes saying, let's be curious about that, let's expand our awareness about that, that maybe the mind wants to struggle with that or fight or push back. And so at one point, I used a formula, and it's a formula that I continue to use. And that is, if I find myself looking at the world through the lens of good and bad and right and wrong, instead I say, what gets created when and then I fill in the blank. What gets created when I see the world as brutal and hostile? What gets created when I see the world as kind and loving? You see, we can find evidence to support either one of those truths. And so where do I want to live? And then how can I be more useful in the world? See, that's the thing. Rather than fighting, we're standing for something. And when we're standing for something, change starts to happen. Because we understand that we can actually be in a conversation with someone who has a different point of view. Wow, I can? You mean I can actually tap into my essential beingness, and from that place, I can be curious about your point of view rather than judging it? Quite often, this isn't happening consciously. It's happening unconsciously. And so, if it's true that we came into the world as infinite beings, whole and perfect, source energy, God essence, if that's true, and we get programmed to believe that we are broken or damaged in some way, or the world is broken or damaged in some way, how then do we release or live beyond all those ideas that are keeping us stuck? I love the way Byron Katie frames it. She said, it's as if we're holding a projector and we're projecting onto a blank screen. If we have a piece of lint on the lens, we will see it everywhere, and we will think it's happening in the world. We think we need to change the world. They shouldn't be doing this. They shouldn't be doing that. But what's really required for us to awaken to a greater reality is to actually clear that lens. And so, in Unity, we say thoughts create reality. I think it's actually much deeper than that. It's frequency that creates reality. It's vibration that creates reality. And thoughts and words have a particular frequency, but at the root of it, what is that vibration I'm holding? So if you're like me, I came into New Thought teachings and I thought, I need to change my thoughts. I need to change my language, and all of that was really important. But at one point, I realized that I was changing the words and I was changing the language and I was even changing the thoughts, but I was still holding these ideas about myself, these vibrations, this frequency. And I just kept seeing that piece of lint everywhere. So one of mine was, I'm not good enough. And so that's that piece of lint. And I went out in the world holding my projector with that I'm not good enough or I'm not worthy piece of lint. And I saw it in every situation, every relationship, every work situation, every friendship. Because that's literally how we create reality in the relative sense. I believe I'm unworthy. I see it everywhere. Even though I'm doing my affirmations, even though I'm doing the vision board, even though I'm changing my thoughts, even though I'm watching my language, there's still this unconscious idea that I'm unworthy. And so I'll walk into a room and I will find the situation to confirm that core false belief. Now, that's the great news. That means we're powerful creators. I remember at one point thinking, my gosh, I just keep choosing these same relationships over and over and over again. And I heard my friend, Reverend Maureen Bass say, isn't it great how powerful you are that you keep creating all this frustration in your life? You're a powerful creator of that. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's so true. And just like that, I can create something else. Now, what I'm not talking about is change your thinking, change your life, although that is a part of it. What I am talking about is heal all those messages, all those ideas, all those beliefs that we've been carrying around. Heal those and return to the original vibration. Recognizing at a very deep level, not just in thought, not just in emotion, not just in our bodies, but at a very deep spiritual place, that we're an infinite being. And that's where we shift from the law of attraction to the law of radiance, that we begin to become and be and shine that light everywhere we go. And guess what? There's no lint on that lens, so I don't see that anymore. I see only love. And as I said, that doesn't mean we pretend that, because if, I've been in certain New Thought communities where they're like, we don't talk about anything but love. We don't talk about things that are happening in the world because we don't want to have that negativity in our consciousness. And what I'm saying is, rather than saying, let's not look at that, let's look at it and be with it as love, as light, as source energy. We then make a powerful change in the world because of who and what we are being. We're no longer fighting the conditions of the world. We're standing for a greater reality in the midst of the world. And that is the profound teaching that Jesus said, to be in the world, but not of the world. The first time I heard that, I thought, wow, that's very interesting. And those words, the simplicity of those words, have really changed my life, because I was of the world. I'm this race, I'm this age, I'm this sexual orientation, I'm this socioeconomic status, I'm this level of education, I have this degree or not that one, I have this car or not that one, I have a partner or I don't, I'm single, I'm married. All those labels are not the truth. And as I became aware of what that profound teaching really means, to be in this world, but not of it, to be of source, to be of spirit, to be of light, to know very deeply that's who and what we are. And if we forget, in a moment, we can return. I'll tell a short story in closing. A client of mine said, do you really walk around only seeing love and light everywhere you go, only seeing every situation as an opportunity for growth, only seeing people as source energy? And I said, well, yes, I do. But sometimes I forget. And when I forget, I can simply remind myself, or I can say, isn't it interesting that I'm thinking about division right now? Isn't it interesting that I'm thinking about lack right now? The power is in this moment. As a matter of fact, it's the only moment that has ever existed. We just did our time change. We had a whole conversation before the service about changing clocks, not changing clocks. Now different states are on different time zones. Isn't that interesting? We just create this whole thing. And of course, it's very useful. Planes leave on time in theory. We show up to this service on time in theory. So it's all very useful, but it's not the ultimate truth. The ultimate truth is only right now. So in closing, what I want to say is you are source energy. You are God essence. You are a particle of light. There is nothing to attract, and there's no place to go. It's only to remember very deeply who and what you are, who and what you be, and then go out into the world radiating that, because life is a great experiment. And I know that each of us who are on right now, watching, listening, each of us has already said yes to that. So are you ready to say yes to a greater awareness of your infinite beingness? Are you ready to say yes to the light that you are? We go out into the world now radiating that, and we watch the magic happen, because it does feel like magic, doesn't it? Wow. This whole time I've been seeing all the division and the hate, and with just a shift in consciousness, all of a sudden the world is a kind and loving place. I'm so deeply honored to be here. So grateful always to speak with and be with your community. Peace and blessings.
Open your mind and unfold your heart. Relax your senses and feel every part. You ain't got a thing to fear. Looks like love that's growing here. So take your guard and let it down. Go deeper still until you come unwound. Unbound. Breathe every breath. Yeah. Release your cringe. Love without waiting. Slowly unhinge. You ain't got a thing to fear. Looks like love is growing here. So take your guard and let it down. Go deeper still until you come unwound. Unbound. You can stop waiting for love to find you. Look inside your heart. Love's already who you are. It's already who we are. So lift up your voice. Lift it up now, now. Let it be heard. Let it be heard. Tell me your story. Tell it to me. Don't leave out a word. Not a word. No. 'Cause I think I have been there too. I'm a seeker just like you. And you ain't got a thing to fear. Looks like love that's growing here. So take your guard and let it down. Go deeper still till you come unwound. Unbound. Lay it all down, down, down. Lay it all down. Open your mind and unfold your heart. Yeah.
Gary, Lynn, Floyd, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Let's just have a moment of prayer. I'm reflecting on the powerful lessons from TJ's talk today, just thinking about my takeaway today is vibration creates this reality, our vibratory frequency, and thinking about maybe it's just a speck of lint on the lens through which we see everything, and how powerful our lens and our perspective and our viewpoint is. And that viewpoint is built from our essence. So where are we vibrating? As Juliet said, where is our attention? And our attention should be coming back to our divinity and our true light. So with the power of that light comes the power to heal, becomes the power to be whole, the power to remember. So right now in this prayerful moment, I'd like us to just embrace everyone that's a part of our community. That includes everyone that's here in this service today, everyone that's not here in this service today. Everyone is a part of our community. There is no separation from here to Iran, to Iraq, to Russia, to Haiti, to Peru, to Mexico. Everywhere there's seeming separation and strife, we're here to remember, and we do it one person, one soul at a time, beginning with us. And so let's bring into that prayer light the healing light of wholeness to Linda and to Juliet, to Barbara Bird, to Dabney, to anyone who needs it, to wherever there's suffering, to whatever situation in our own lives, whatever situation, emotion, frustration, anything in our physical, emotional, mental, spiritual realms of ourselves that needs to be retuned and remember. Let's just bring that here today, right now. And for this, I'm so, so grateful. And so it is.